The alarm screamed through every corridor of the ship. Red lights flashed on and off, making shadows jump across the metal walls. The entire vessel shook as another explosion burst somewhere outside. Captain Velmara gripped her command chair with all four of her arms, her compound eyes wide with terror. "All crew to emergency stations," she shouted into the communication system. Her voice cracked with fear. This is not a drill. The Harmonic Convergence was a diplomatic transport ship, not a warship. It had been traveling through what was supposed to be neutral space when the fighting started. Two alien species, the Voskans and the Tralians, had been at war for months. Now their battle had caught the peaceful transport right in the middle. On the bridge, screens showed chaos outside. Weapons fire lit up the darkness of space like lightning. Ships exploded into clouds of debris. The station they had been heading toward was damaged, smoke pouring from holes in its hull. The Harmonic Convergence had barely managed to dock before a blast took out their main engines. "Structural integrity at 70%, called out Engineer Koss from his station. The crystalline being's body flickered with anxious colors. "Another hit like that and we lose life support. How long until the fighting moves away from us?" Captain Velmara demanded. "Unknown, Captain. Could be hours. Could be days." The captain's mandibles clicked together rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in her species. Around the bridge, other crew members trembled at their stations. Every new explosion made them flinch. Their bodies were rigid with fear. "Check all sections," Velmara ordered. "Make sure everyone is accounted for and secure." Reports came in quickly. Engineering section secure. Medical bay secure. Cargo hold secure. Everyone was where they needed to be, huddled in the safest parts of the ship, waiting for the nightmare to end. Then came a report that made no sense. "Captain," said the security officer, confusion clear in his translated voice. "Cargo specialist Dae-hyun is not at his emergency station." "What?" Velmara's eyes swiveled to focus on the security officer. "Where is he?" "According to his door sensor, he's still in his quarters." The bridge went silent except for the blaring alarms. Everyone stared at the security officer. "His quarters?" Velmara repeated slowly. "In the residential section?" "The section with the weakest hull plating." "Yes, Captain. Why hasn't he reported to his station?" "Is he injured?" "His vital signs monitor shows." "He's asleep, Captain." For a moment no one spoke. The ship shuddered again from a nearby explosion. Debris pinged off the hull like hail. "Asleep?" Velmara's voice rose. "Check the monitor again. It must be broken." The security officer tapped his screen several times. "Monitor is functioning normally, Captain. Heart rate 60 beats per minute. Respiration slow and steady. Brain activity consistent with deep sleep. He's definitely asleep." "That's impossible," Engineer Koss said, his crystalline form flashing bright orange with shock. No one could sleep through this. Captain Velmara made a decision. "Medical Officer Hana, go to Dae-hyun's quarters immediately. Wake him and bring him to a secure location." "On my way, Captain," came the response. Hana was also human, one of only two aboard the ship. She moved through the shaking corridors quickly, not running but walking with steady purpose. Other crew members she passed were pressed against walls, trembling, some crying in fear. Hana nodded to them calmly as she passed. When she reached Dae-hyun's door, she pressed the entry button. The door slid open. The room was dark except for a small nightlight. In the bed, she could see a shape under the covers. The room was quiet except for the sound of gentle breathing and the distant alarms. Dae-hyun was indeed asleep. "Dae-hyun!" Hana called out. No response. She walked to the bed and shook his shoulder. "Dae-hyun, wake up." He stirred slowly, the way people do when woken from a pleasant dream. His eyes opened and he looked at her with confusion. "Hana? What time is it?" "Time to get up." "We're under attack." Dae-hyun blinked a few times, then seemed to notice the flashing red lights and the alarm sounds. The ship shook again, harder this time. He sat up slowly, rubbing his face. "Under attack? What's going on?" "The Voskan-Tralian War. The fighting came to our location. We're docked at a damaged station. The captain wants everyone at emergency stations." "Oh." Dae-hyun stood up and stretched. He walked to his small window and looked out at the battle raging outside. Weapons fire streaked past. A ship exploded in the distance, its hull splitting apart. He watched for a moment, then nodded. "Looks like it's about 3 kilometers away. Maybe 4. Dae-hyun, we need to go, right? Sure." He grabbed a jacket and pulled it on. "Do we have time for me to use the bathroom first?" Hana stared at him. "Are you serious? What?" "It'll just take a minute." "The ship could be destroyed at any moment." "It won't be," Dae-hyun said calmly. "The fighting is kilometers away. Look at the pattern of fire. They're engaged with each other, not targeting the station or us." We're just in a bad location. As long as we don't take a stray hit, we're fine. Fine? Hana's voice rose. We're in the middle of a war zone! A war zone where the combatants aren't interested in us. Big difference. He saw her expression and sighed. Okay. Let's go report to the captain. But honestly, we're probably safer just staying in our rooms and waiting it out. They made their way to the bridge. When the door opened and Dae-hyun walked in, every eye turned to him. The bridge crew stared like he was a ghost. Cargo Specialist Dae-hyun reporting, Captain, he said with a small nod. Captain Velmara's mandibles hung open. You were asleep. Yes, Captain. My shift ended 4 hours ago. I went to bed at my normal time, but the alarms. The explosions. How could you possibly sleep? Dae-hyun looked genuinely confused by the question. The alarms are just noise. The explosions are outside the ship. I checked the distance before I went to sleep. The fighting was far enough away that the probability of a direct hit was less than 3%. Those are acceptable odds. Acceptable? Engineer Koss's entire body flashed white with shock. We could die at any moment. Well, technically, we could die at any moment even during normal operations. Space is dangerous. This situation just has slightly higher risk than usual, but not dramatically higher. The bridge crew looked at each other in disbelief. I don't understand, Captain Velmara said slowly. Are you not afraid? Afraid? Dae-hyun thought about it. A little, I guess. But fear doesn't change the situation. Either we'll be hit or we won't. Staying awake and worrying about it doesn't improve our odds. Better to rest so if something does happen, we're alert enough to respond properly. Another explosion rocked the ship. Everyone on the bridge grabbed their stations for support. Terror clear on their faces. Dae-hyun just shifted his weight slightly to keep his balance, looking unconcerned. If you don't need me for anything specific, Captain, I'd like to go back to my quarters and finish my sleep cycle. I have a full shift tomorrow and I need at least 7 hours. Captain Velmara couldn't form words. Her mandibles clicked uselessly. Hana stepped forward. What the captain is trying to understand is how you can be so calm. I'm not calm, Dae-hyun said. I'm practical. Look, Captain, the situation is bad but stable. We're docked. Life support is functioning. The fighting isn't getting closer. There's nothing we can do except wait, so we should rest and preserve our energy. If something changes, the alarms will wake me. You want to go back to sleep? Velmara said flatly. If that's acceptable, yes. In the middle of a battle. In the middle of someone else's battle that we happen to be near, Dae-hyun corrected gently. There's a difference, the captain looked at Hana. Is this normal for humans? Hana hesitated. More or less. We're pretty good at sleeping through things. Through a war. We've slept through worse, Hana admitted. Captain Velmara slumped in her chair. Her crew was in a state of terror. They'd been that way for hours, adrenaline flooding their systems, wearing them down. And here was a human suggesting they all just go to sleep. The most disturbing part was that he might be right. Go, she said finally. Both of you, get rest, but keep your emergency communicators active. Of course, Captain, Dae-hyun said. Try to get some sleep yourself. It's going to be a long wait. As the two humans left the bridge, Engineer Koss turned to the captain. What are they? Captain Velmara watched the door close behind them. I don't know, but I think we're about to find out. 6 hours passed. The fighting outside continued, but it had moved further away from the station. The immediate danger had lessened, but the harmonic convergence was still trapped. Their engines were damaged, and it wasn't safe to attempt repairs while combat raged nearby. Captain Velmara had finally taken Dae-hyun's advice and rested for 2 hours. She hadn't really slept, but lying down had helped. Now she sat in the mess hall with several crew members, including both humans. The conversation had turned to Earth, the human homeworld. I still don't understand, said Engineer Koss. His crystalline body pulsed with curious yellow colors. How did you sleep through that, Dae-hyun? Dae-hyun shrugged, eating his meal calmly. Practice, I guess. I grew up learning to sleep through loud noises. What kind of noises? Asked a crew member from the avian species. Thunderstorms, mostly. Where I lived, we got big storms. Rain pounding on the roof, thunder shaking the windows, lightning so bright it lit up the whole room. I learned to sleep through all of it as a kid. The crew members exchanged glances. Thunder? Velmara asked. I've read about this. Your planet has electrical discharges in the atmosphere that can kill? Well, yeah, but that's pretty rare. Lightning strikes kill maybe a few dozen people a year on the whole planet. A few dozen? Koss flashed orange with alarm. On my world, if the sky started shooting deadly electrical bolts, we would evacuate the entire hemisphere. Hana laughed softly. We just go inside. Or if we're caught outside, we avoid standing under trees or in open fields. It's not that dangerous if you're careful. Not that dangerous, Velmara repeated. The sky attacks you and you say it's not that dangerous. The sky doesn't attack us, Daehyun corrected. Lightning is just a natural phenomenon. It happens. You learn to live with it. What else happens on your world? Asked a young crew member named Pix, her tentacles curling with fascination and fear. Daehyun thought for a moment. Well, there are earthquakes. The ground shakes, sometimes hard enough to knock down buildings. Hurricanes, which are huge spinning storms with winds strong enough to throw vehicles around. Tornadoes, which are like smaller hurricanes but more concentrated. Tsunamis, which are giant waves that can wash away whole cities. Floods, droughts, wildfires, blizzards. He trailed off when he noticed everyone staring at him in horror. Your planet is trying to kill you, Koss said quietly. No, it's just active. Geologically and meteorologically active. These things happen naturally. And you just live there? Pix's voice was barely a whisper. With all of that? Where else would we live? It's our home, Hana added. You learn which areas are safer. Like I grew up near a volcano, but it was monitored. We knew it could erupt, but there were warning systems. We had evacuation plans. You lived near a mountain that could explode molten rock? Velmara's voice went up an octave. On purpose. The soil around volcanoes is really fertile. Good for farming. And the area was beautiful. Mountains, forests, hot springs. It was worth the small risk. Small risk, Velmara muttered. Ambassador Reendar, an elderly reptilian who had been silent until now, spoke up. I have studied Earth extensively. It is classified in galactic records as a Class 12 death world. Everyone turned to look at him. What's a death world? Asked Pix. It's a classification for planets that are actively hostile to life. Most species in the galaxy evolved on Class 1 or Class 2 worlds. Stable climates, few natural disasters, no apex predators. Earth is rated at the extreme end of the scale. Apex predators? Koss asked nervously. Reendar nodded. Creatures that hunt other creatures for food. Earth has many. Tell them, Daehyun. Tell them about the predators on your world. Daehyun looked uncomfortable. I mean, yeah, we have predators. But humans are pretty safe from them now. It's not like it was thousands of years ago. But they exist, Reendar pressed. Okay, yes. We have large cats that can take down animals bigger than themselves. Bears that can weigh over half a ton. Crocodiles that can bite through bone. Sharks in the oceans. Wolves that hunt in packs. Venomous snakes and spiders. But like I said, we're pretty safe from them now. Because you killed most of them, Reendar said. We pushed them back. Protected ourselves. Created safe zones. You waged war against your own planet's predators and won. The mess hall was completely silent. Even the soft hum of the ship's system seemed loud. It wasn't war, Daehyun protested. It was just survival. What were we supposed to do, let them eat us? Most species never had to make that choice, Reendar said gently. We evolved on worlds where we were the most dangerous things around, or where predators were small enough to avoid. You evolved in constant danger. Hana spoke up, her voice thoughtful. I never really thought about it that way. We learned in school that Earth was unusual, but I figured every species had some challenges. Challenges, yes, Velmara said, but not like yours. My homeworld has weather, but it's predictable. Seasons come and go on schedule. Temperatures stay within a comfortable range. The ground doesn't shake. The sky doesn't attack. The largest predator is the size of your hand. Our oceans are calm, added Pix. No giant waves, no deadly currents. You can swim anywhere safely. The most dangerous thing on my world, Koss said, is tripping and cracking your crystal matrix. And that's rare. Daehyun and Hana looked at each other. For the first time, they seemed to realize just how different their world was. So when you slept through the battle, Velmara said slowly, it wasn't because you're brave or foolish. It was because, compared to living on Earth, this wasn't that dangerous. I wouldn't say it wasn't dangerous, Daehyun said carefully. But yeah, I guess the danger felt manageable. I've been in scary situations before. This was bad, but not the worst thing I could imagine. What would be the worst thing? Asked Pix. Daehyun thought about it. Being caught in a tsunami with no high ground. Or trapped in a building during a major earthquake. Maybe lost at sea in a storm with no shelter. That would be worse than this. The alien stared at him. Those are all things that could naturally happen on your world, Koss asked. Yeah. They don't happen to most people, but they're possible. Ambassador Reendar pulled up a display on his datapad. Let me share some information about Earth that I've compiled. He projected images into the air above the table. The crew saw human cities built right next to enormous bodies of water. This is San Francisco, Rindar explained. Built on an earthquake fault line. Major earthquakes hit every few decades. They just rebuild. Another image. Tokyo. Also on a fault line, also hit by earthquakes regularly, plus tsunamis, plus typhoons. Population 37 million. More images followed. Cities and areas that flooded. Towns in tornado zones. Settlements on volcanic islands. Villages in regions where temperatures could kill in minutes. They don't just survive there, Rindar said. They thrive. They build, they create, they raise families. In places that would be evacuated on any other civilized world. That's insane, Koss whispered. No, said Rindar. That's human. They don't have a choice. Their entire planet is like this. So they adapted. They became tougher, more resilient, more able to tolerate danger and stress. Velmara looked at Daehyun and Hana with new eyes. You're not fearless. You're just calibrated differently. I guess that's one way to put it, Hana said. We still feel fear. But our threshold for danger is different because our normal is different. When I was a kid, Daehyun said quietly, my family went camping in an area with bears. We learned how to store food properly, how to behave if we saw one, how to make ourselves big and loud if we needed to scare them off. I was maybe 7 years old. My parents taught me these things like you might teach a kid to cross the street safely. You taught children how to confront bears. Pix's tentacles went rigid. Well, how to avoid them mostly. But yeah, it was just part of learning to be safe outdoors. I learned to swim in the ocean, Hana added. My instructor taught me about rip currents, how to escape them if I got caught. I was 6. It was normal. Velmara felt something shift in her understanding. These humans weren't strange or broken or dangerously reckless. They were simply the product of their world. A world that had demanded strength, resilience, and calm in the face of danger. Or death. So when you look at our situation, she said, trapped at a damaged station with a battle outside, you assess it the same way you'd assess any other danger on Earth. Calculate the risk, determine the best response, and act accordingly. Pretty much, Daehyun agreed. And the best response was to sleep. The best response was to rest and conserve energy while we couldn't do anything else, he corrected. If the situation changed, if we needed to act, we'd be rested and ready. That's just practical. Engineer Koss made a sound like tinkling glass, his species' version of laughter. We've been terrified for hours, wearing ourselves out with fear. And you took a nap. I mean, when you say it like that, it sounds bad, Daehyun said with a small smile. But Velmara wasn't laughing. She was thinking. She had 2 humans on her crew. 2 beings who had evolved to survive conditions that would kill most of the species in the galaxy. 2 people whose normal was danger. And right now they were trapped in a dangerous situation. Maybe having Deathworlders around wasn't such a bad thing. Get some rest, everyone, she announced. Follow the humans' example. We need to be ready for whatever comes next. 12 hours after the battle began, the situation changed for the worse. The alarm that woke everyone this time was different from the battle alert. This was a systems failure warning. Captain Velmara rushed to the bridge, her forearms moving quickly as she pulled on her uniform. Report, she demanded as she entered. The station's environmental system is failing, Engineer Koss said, his crystalline body flashing red with urgency. The battle damaged their primary generators. They've been running on backup power, but it's not enough. Life support is cascading toward total failure. How long? 6 hours. Maybe 8 if they shut down non-essential sections. Can they repair it? Koss pulled up a schematic. The damage is to the external array. Here and here. Someone would need to go outside and replace 3 burned-out power conduits and reroute 2 others. Then send repair teams. Captain, Koss said quietly, the repairs are on the outer hull, in open space. And the battle is still happening. It's moved further away, but there's still weapons fire. Debris everywhere. It would be suicide. Velmara felt her mandibles click rapidly. The station held 3,000 beings. If life support failed, they would all die. But sending someone outside in the middle of combat was just as deadly. Contact the warring fleets. Tell them there's a humanitarian crisis. They need to cease fire. We've tried, Captain. They're not responding to civilian channels. They're too focused on fighting each other. The door to the bridge opened. Daehyun walked in, looking alert despite the early hour. Hana was right behind him. We heard the alarm, Daehyun said. What's happening? Velmara explained the situation. As she spoke, she watched the humans' faces. They listened carefully, occasionally glancing at the schematics Koss displayed. Let me see the damage locations, Daehyun said. Koss projected a three-dimensional model of the station. Red markers showed where repairs were needed. Daehyun studied it, his eyes moving across the display. The conduits are standard T-class, he noted. We have spares in our cargo hold. I loaded them 3 stations back. That's fortunate, Velmara said. But we still need someone to install them. I'll do it, Daehyun said simply. The bridge went silent. You'll... What? Velmara asked. I'll do the repairs. I've done external work before. I'm rated for EVA operations. In a combat zone? Daehyun looked at the tactical display showing the ongoing battle. The fighting is about 5 kilometers away now. That's not too close, and the station is between us and most of it, providing some cover. It's risky but doable. Risky, Koss's voice rose. There are high-energy weapons being fired out there. Explosions! Debris moving at lethal speeds, I know. But 3,000 people will die if we don't fix this. That's not acceptable. Hana stepped forward. I'll go with him. 2 people can work faster, and I'm also EVA rated. Velmara looked at them both. You're volunteering to walk into a battle. On purpose. We're volunteering to save 3,000 lives, Hana corrected gently. The battle is just the environment we have to work in. Before Velmara could respond, another voice came from behind them. Make that 3. Everyone turned. A human woman stood in the doorway wearing a repair technician's uniform. She was young, maybe in her 20s, with short black hair and confident eyes. Who are you? Velmara demanded. Jiwoo, engineering specialist. I came in on the rescue ship that just docked. Heard you needed repairs done outside. She walked to the schematic and studied it for maybe 10 seconds. Yeah, I can do this. Those conduits are easy. The rerouting is a bit tricky, but manageable. There's a battle happening outside, Koss said, as if she might not have noticed. I saw it on the way in. Looks exciting. Jiwoo grinned. But seriously, this needs to be done, right? So let's do it. Captain Velmara looked at the 3 humans. They stood there calmly, ready to walk into a war zone like it was just another work assignment. She wanted to say no. She wanted to forbid it, but she had no alternative solution and time was running out. Prepare for EVA, she said finally. But if the situation gets worse, if the fighting comes closer, you abort immediately. That's an order. Understood, Captain, Daehyun said. 20 minutes later, the 3 humans stood in the airlock, sealed in their spacesuits. The cargo of replacement conduits was loaded on a small drone that would follow them outside. Through the window, Velmara could see them checking each other's equipment with practiced efficiency. The entire bridge crew watched the external cameras as the airlock cycled open. The 3 humans pushed out into space, moving with steady confidence. Behind them, stars twinkled peacefully. Ahead, explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. A ship broke apart in the distance, its debris spreading in all directions. Heads up! Daehyun's voice came over the comm. Debris field moving through Sector 3. Should pass south of our position. Confirmed, Jiwoo replied. We're clear. Proceeding to first repair site. On the bridge, Engineer Koss watched in frozen horror. They're so calm. They're focused, Ambassador Rindar said quietly. He had come to the bridge to observe. This is what humans do. They work under pressure. The humans reached the first damaged conduit. Their helmet cameras sent back images of melted metal and fried circuits. Hana pulled out tools while Daehyun positioned the replacement part. This one's worse than the schematic showed, Hana observed. The housing is damaged too. We'll need to cut it out. Agreed. Jiwoo, can you start on Site 2 while we handle this? On my way. Jiwoo pushed off, floating past a twisted piece of station hull that was still glowing red from weapons heat. She didn't even glance at it. A bright flash made everyone on the bridge flinch. An explosion close enough to light up the cameras. That was maybe half a kilometer, Daehyun commented. Wind from the blast pushed some debris our way. Everyone check your positions. I'm good, Hana said. Clear here, Jiwoo added. They just kept working. Lieutenant Mira, a young Tralian officer, watched with her mouth hanging open. They're not even scared, she whispered. Oh, they're scared, Hana's voice came over the comm. She had apparently heard. But being scared doesn't stop the conduit from needing replacement. So we work anyway. Fear is just information, Daehyun added, grunting as he pulled out a damaged component. It tells us to be careful. We're being careful, but the job still needs doing. More time passed. The humans moved from one repair site to another. They called out warnings to each other about incoming debris. They discussed technical problems with the same tone people might use to talk about weather. When a piece of shrapnel punched through a non-critical part of the station near them, they just moved to the other side to continue working. Then Hana's suit alarm went off. Breach in my suit, she announced calmly. Left shoulder. Probably from that micro debris that came through a minute ago. Velmara gripped her chair. Abort, get back inside now. Hold on, Captain. Let me assess. There was a pause. It's small. Maybe 2 millimeters. I'm losing air, but my emergency patch should hold. Give me a second. The bridge crew watched as Hana calmly applied a patch to her suit while floating in space in the middle of a battle. She tested it, checked her air levels, then nodded. Patch is good. Air loss stopped. I can continue. You should come inside, Velmara insisted. We're almost done, Captain. Just one more conduit and the rerouting. Maybe 15 minutes. I'm fine to finish, are you sure? Daehyun asked over the comm. I'm sure. My air is at 70%. More than enough. They continued working. Jiwoo finished the second conduit and moved to help with the rerouting. This is actually kind of beautiful out here, she said. Despite everything, space is amazing, right? Daehyun agreed. You can see the nebula. The colors are incredible. On the bridge, Koss made a sound like breaking crystal. They're sightseeing. In a war zone, while one of them has a damaged suit. They're remarkable, Rindar said softly. Finally, after what felt like hours but was only 40 minutes, the repairs were complete. All conduits replaced and rerouted, Daehyun reported. Station's environmental controls should be back online now. Confirmed, came a grateful voice from the station's operations center. Power is flowing. Life support is stabilizing. You saved us. Thank you. The 3 humans made their way back to the airlock. As they cycled through and removed their helmets, the bridge crew erupted in relieved chatter. They had done it. The impossible had been done. When the humans arrived on the bridge, Velmara stood to face them. That was the bravest thing I have ever witnessed. Daehyun shrugged. It was just repair work, Captain. In the middle of a battle. Well, yeah, but someone had to do it. He smiled tiredly. Besides, we're humans. Dangerous environments are kind of our thing. Jiwoo stretched. That was a good workout. When's breakfast? Velmara looked at her crew. They were staring at the humans with expressions of awe and fear mixed together. These humans had just proven they could work calmly in conditions that would paralyze any other species. Lieutenant Mira approached Daehyun hesitantly. How do you do it? How do you stay calm when death is so close? Daehyun considered the question. I guess we learned a long time ago that death is always close. On Earth, it could be a natural disaster, a predator, an accident. Anything, so we learned to work anyway. If we stopped every time there was danger, we'd never get anything done. But you could have died out there. The battle finally ended 3 days after it started. The warring fleets had exhausted their weapons and withdrawn to resupply. The station was safe. The harmonic convergence could begin full repairs and eventually leave. But something had changed aboard the ship. The crew moved differently around the humans now. There was respect in their eyes, but also wariness. They had seen what humans could do, and it both impressed and frightened them. Captain Velmara called a meeting in the observation lounge. The large window looked out at the damaged station, where repair crews worked to fix the scars of battle. Most of the crew was there, including all 4 humans now aboard. The rescue ship had brought Jiwoo and 1 more human, a cultural officer named Hyunwoo. I asked you all here because we need to understand something, Velmara began. We've all witnessed what humans can do. But I want to understand why. What makes you this way? The crew looked at the humans expectantly. Daehyun glanced at Hana, Jiwoo, and Hyunwoo. That's a big question, Captain. I have time. We all do. A new figure entered the lounge. It was Scholar Tilin, a specialist in alien psychology who had arrived on the rescue ship specifically to study the humans. She was an insectoid species with large, multifaceted eyes that seemed to see everything. If I may, Captain, Tilin said in her precise way of speaking, I would like to conduct some interviews with your human crew. For research purposes, Velmara nodded. If they're willing. I'm curious what you want to know, Hyunwoo said. He was older than the others, with gray in his hair and calm, intelligent eyes. Tilin settled into a chair, her many legs folding beneath her. I want to understand human fear. You have it, correct? You feel fear like other species? Of course, Anhana said. We're not emotionless, but you act despite it. You slept through a battle. You worked in a combat zone. This suggests either you don't feel fear, or you have developed ways to override it. We don't override it, Daehyun explained. We work with it. Fear is useful. It makes us alert-focused, but we don't let it control us. How do you learn this? Is it biological or cultural? Hyunwoo leaned forward. Both, let me explain. Human children are taught from a very young age about danger. We teach them which things are dangerous and how to handle those dangers. A human child learns about fire, about heights, about water, about strangers. We teach them to be careful but not paralyzed. Give me an example, Tilene requested, taking notes on her datapad. Okay, Jiwoo said. When I was 5, my parents took me hiking in the mountains. Before we went, they taught me about the dangers. Wild animals, steep drops, getting lost, changing weather. They taught me what to do in each situation. Then we went hiking anyway. You took a child into danger? Lieutenant Mira asked, shocked. Calculated danger, Jiwoo corrected. We stayed on trails. We had supplies. My parents knew what they were doing. But yes, there was risk. And that was the point. I learned that you can be near danger and survive if you're careful and prepared. Hana nodded. I learned to swim in the ocean, real ocean with waves and currents. My instructor taught me about rip currents, how to recognize them, how to escape if I got caught in one. Then she made me swim in areas where rip currents could happen. That seems cruel, Pix said quietly. It seems practical, Hana replied, because now I can swim safely in the ocean. I'm not afraid of it. I respect it, I understand it, but I can enjoy it too. Tilene's eyes glittered. So human culture actively exposes children to danger to teach them how to handle it. Yes, Hyunwoo confirmed. We call it building resilience. A child who is never exposed to any risk never learns how to assess and manage danger. They become either reckless or paralyzed by fear when they eventually encounter something dangerous. Which eventually they will. Daehyun added, because Earth is full of danger. Ambassador Rindar, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. This explains much, but I want to understand the philosophical aspect. Humans have developed an entire worldview around danger and survival, haven't they? Hyunwoo smiled. You've done your research, Ambassador. Yes, human philosophy, literature, art, all of it is full of themes about facing danger, about courage, about survival. Tell us, Velmara said. She found herself leaning forward, genuinely curious. Hyunwoo thought for a moment. There's an old human saying, courage is not the absence of fear, but acting despite fear. That's core to how humans think. We admire people who do difficult or dangerous things even though they're afraid. Why? Koss asked. Why admire risk-taking? Because avoiding all risk means avoiding all growth, all achievement, all progress. The humans who first crossed oceans were afraid. The ones who first climbed the highest mountains were afraid. The ones who first went to space were definitely afraid. But they went anyway, and humanity advanced because of it. Another concept, Daehyun said, is calculated risk. We understand that some risks are worth taking if the potential benefit is high enough. That's what we did with the repair mission. The risk was significant, but the benefit was saving 3,000 lives. Easy choice. Easy? Lieutenant Mira shook her head. It nearly killed you. Nearly isn't the same as did, Jiwoo said with a small smile. We assessed our chances and decided they were good enough. And we were right. We succeeded. Tilene's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. So humans have developed a complex risk assessment system. But it's not just logical calculation. There's an emotional component too, isn't there? Absolutely, Hana said. We feel fear, but we also feel other things, duty, responsibility, love. Those feelings can be stronger than fear. Explain duty, Tilene requested. Daehyun answered. Duty means doing what needs to be done regardless of how you feel. When those repairs needed doing, I felt afraid. But I also felt responsible. I had the skills, the equipment, and the physical ability. Not doing it because I was scared would have meant letting people die. My sense of duty was stronger than my fear. This is what soldiers feel, Rindar observed. Humans have a strong tradition of military service, of people who face danger to protect others. Yes, Hyunwoo confirmed. Throughout human history, some people have chosen to put themselves in danger to keep others safe. We honor that choice. We teach our children stories about heroes who were afraid but acted anyway. We have firefighters, Hana added, people who run into burning buildings to save others. We have rescue workers who go into disaster zones, doctors who treat contagious diseases. None of these people are fearless. They're just committed to helping others more than they're committed to their own safety. Pix's tentacles curled tightly. That sounds like a mental disorder. Putting others before yourself to that degree. To us, it's the highest form of courage, Daehyun said quietly. Selflessness in the face of danger. That's what we aspire to. The lounge was quiet for a long moment. The alien crew members looked at each other, processing this information. Finally, Velmara spoke. When you went outside to do those repairs, you weren't being reckless or suicidal. You were being what humans consider heroic. I guess, Daehyun said, looking uncomfortable with the label. I was just doing what needed to be done. That's what makes it heroic, Hyunwoo said gently. True courage doesn't seek recognition. It just does what's necessary. Tillian looked up from her notes. I'm beginning to understand. Humans have spent their entire evolutionary history learning to live with danger. You've built an entire culture around it. Philosophies, ethics, social structures, all designed to help you not just survive danger but thrive despite it. That's a good way to put it, Hyunwoo agreed. But doesn't it hurt? Lieutenant Mira asked suddenly. Everyone looked at her. I mean, don't you lose people? Don't humans die doing these dangerous things? The humans were quiet for a moment. Yes, Hana said softly. We do. Not everyone who faces danger survives it. We have firefighters who die in fires, soldiers who die in combat, rescue workers who are lost in the disasters they try to help with. And you accept this? Mira's voice cracked. We honor it, Daehyun said. We remember them. We tell their stories. We teach our children about them. And other people step up to take their place knowing the risks. Because if we didn't, Jiwoo added, if we all just avoided danger, civilization couldn't function. Not on Earth. There are too many threats, too many disasters, too much danger. Someone has to face it. Koss's body flashed through several colors before settling on a deep blue. You're saying that human civilization requires some people to be willing to die? All civilizations require that, Hyunwoo said. The difference is that on Earth it happens more often because Earth is more dangerous. So we've built a culture that supports it, honors it, and prepares people for it. Ambassador Rindar stood and walked to the window. He looked out at the stars for a long moment. I've studied many species. Humans are unique not because they're fearless, but because they've learned to function despite fear. Most species evolve to avoid danger. Humans evolve to face it, assess it, and overcome it. He turned back to the group. This is why humans will change the galaxy. You don't see danger as something that stops you. You see it as something to be calculated, managed, and if necessary, accepted. That perspective is revolutionary. Captain Velmara stood as well. I understand now. When Daehyun slept through the battle, he wasn't being foolish. He was being efficient. When 2 weeks after the battle, the harmonic convergence was finally ready to depart. The ship's engines had been repaired, supplies restocked, and the station had returned to something resembling normal operations. But news of what had happened had already spread across the galactic communication networks. The story of the 3 humans who spacewalked through a combat zone had captured the imagination of billions of beings across thousands of worlds. Some found it inspiring. Others found it terrifying. Many found it both. On Earth, a young man named Do-yoon watched the news reports with wide eyes. He was 19 years old, trying to decide what to do with his life. The images of Daehyun, Hana, and Jiwoo calmly working in space while explosions flashed around them played over and over on his screen. They're heroes, his mother said, looking over his shoulder. They're just doing their jobs, Do-yoon replied. That's what the interviews say. They keep insisting they're not special. Maybe that's what makes them special, his mother said thoughtfully. Do-yoon made a decision. He opened his computer and started filling out an application for the Colonial Service. If humans like him could help the galaxy, could work in places others feared, then that's what he wanted to do. Across the galaxy, similar conversations were happening, but not all of them were positive. In the Great Council chamber of the Galactic Union, Ambassador Minji stood before the assembled representatives of 300 species. She was a small woman by human standards, middle-aged with graying hair pulled back in a simple style, but she stood with the quiet confidence that other species were learning to recognize in humans. The Council has concerns, said Council Prime Selvoth. He was an ancient being, his species known for living over 1,000 years. His voice was careful, measured. The incident at Station 47 has raised questions about human integration into galactic society. Questions? Minji asked politely. Specifically, questions about safety. If humans are this comfortable with danger, this capable in combat situations, should there be restrictions on where they can travel? What positions they can hold? A murmur ran through the council chamber. Minji had expected this. She had prepared for it. With respect, Council Prime, I believe you're asking the wrong questions. Zelvoth's eyes focused on her. Explain. You're asking if humans are dangerous. Let me answer that directly. Yes. Humans can be dangerous. We evolved on a world that taught us to survive threats. We're physically strong by galactic standards. We have high pain tolerance. We can function under extreme stress. All of this is true. The council chamber was completely silent. But, Min-ji continued, you're not asking the important question, which is, what do humans do with these capabilities? She activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above the council floor. This is the Viridian colony. The atmosphere is toxic to most species. Humans have established a settlement there and made it safe for others. They work in the toxic zone so other species don't have to. Another image. This is the Broken Moon Station. It orbits a gas giant with extreme radiation. Humans staff the maintenance crews that keep it functioning, protecting the traders who use it as a hub. More images followed, each showing humans working in places that were dangerous, uncomfortable, or hostile to other forms of life. This is the pattern, Min-ji said. Humans don't use their danger tolerance to threaten others. They use it to protect others. They take the risky jobs, the dangerous assignments, the positions no one else wants. Why? Asked a council member. Why would they volunteer for such things? Because we understand danger, Min-ji replied. We've lived with it our entire evolutionary history. We know what it means to be vulnerable, to be threatened, to need help. So when we see others facing dangers they can't handle, we step in. Not to dominate them, but to protect them. Council Prime Zelvoth leaned back in his seat. You're saying humans are naturally protective? I'm saying we're naturally empathetic to those facing danger. We've been there. We know what it's like. And we have the tools to help. Another council member spoke up, his translation coming through clearly. But what about warfare? If humans are so capable in dangerous situations, doesn't that make them the perfect soldiers? Min-ji nodded slowly. Yes, humans make very effective soldiers. But here's what you need to understand about human military history. We've spent the last several thousand years learning how horrible war is. We've fought each other enough to know that violence should be the absolute last resort. She changed the holographic display. Now it showed human peacekeepers, medical teams, disaster response units. Modern humanity puts more effort into preventing conflict than engaging in it. Our military forces spend more time on humanitarian missions than combat operations. We've learned that strength is best used for protection, not conquest. Pretty words, said another council member skeptically. But how can we be sure? Look at the evidence, Min-ji said simply. Humans have been part of the galactic community for 30 years. In that time, have we started any wars? Invaded any planets? Threatened any species? Or have we consistently been the ones responding to disasters, taking the dangerous jobs, and helping others? The council chamber was quiet as the representatives considered this. The humans at Station 47 could have refused to do those repairs, Min-ji continued. They could have stayed safe inside while 3,000 beings died. No one would have blamed them. But they didn't. They faced the danger because others needed help. That's what humans do. Council Prime Zelvoth looked at her for a long moment. You make a compelling case, Ambassador, but the concern remains. Humans are different from other species in the galactic community. This difference makes some uncomfortable. I understand, Min-ji said. And I'm not asking you to stop being cautious. I'm asking you to recognize that different isn't the same as dangerous. Humans bring something valuable to the galaxy. The ability to work in places and situations that others can't. That's not a threat, that's an asset. She paused, then added quietly, the galaxy is a dangerous place. Natural disasters, stellar phenomena, system failures, accidents. These things happen. And when they do, wouldn't you rather have someone around who knows how to handle danger, who stays calm in a crisis, who will risk themselves to save others? The council members looked at each other. Slowly, one by one, they began to nod. Meanwhile, aboard the Harmonic Convergence, life had settled into a new normal. The ship was traveling to its next destination, and the crew had learned to work alongside their human members without constant anxiety. Captain Velmara found Daehyun in the cargo bay doing inventory work. May I speak with you? She asked. Of course, Captain. He set down his datapad. I wanted to tell you that I've requested you and Hana be permanently assigned to my crew. Daehyun looked surprised. Really? Why? Because I've learned something important. Having humans aboard isn't a risk. It's the best insurance policy a ship can have. I don't understand. Velmara's mandibles clicked, and what Daehyun had learned was amusement. Space is dangerous. Ships fail. Systems break. Emergencies happen. When they do, I want people who can stay calm, assess the situation rationally, and do what needs to be done. I want Deathworlders. Daehyun smiled slightly. That's quite a change from 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago I was afraid of you. Now I understand you. There's a difference. She paused. The galaxy is going to change because of humans. I want to be part of that change. We're not trying to change anything, Daehyun protested. We're just trying to help. Exactly. And that's what will change everything. In her quarters, Hana was having a similar conversation with Scholar Tilene. Your people fascinate me, Tilene said. I've studied 17 different species, but humans are unique. Because we're from a death world? No. Because you took the lessons of a death world and turned them into virtues. Courage, resilience, selflessness, sacrifice. These aren't just survival traits for you. They're cultural values. You teach them to your children. You celebrate them in your stories. You've built an entire civilization around the idea that facing danger for others is the highest form of honor. Hana thought about that. I suppose we have. I never really thought about it that way. Most species can't think that way. Their evolution didn't require it. But humans needed these traits to survive. And now that you're among the stars, the whole galaxy benefits from them. So what happens now? Tilene's compound eyes glittered. Now humanity takes its place in the galactic community, not as conquerors or warriors, but as protectors. The ones who can go where others can't, do what others won't, face what others fear. The galaxy needs that. On Earth, Doyun received his acceptance into the colonial service. He would be trained for 2 years, then assigned to one of the frontier settlements where humans helped establish safe zones in dangerous territories. He was excited. He was nervous. He was ready. Across the galaxy, thousands of other young humans were making similar choices. They had seen what Daehyun, Hana, and Jiwoo had done. They understood what it meant to be human in a galaxy that needed their unique strengths. The harmonic convergence continued its journey. In his quarters, Daehyun lay in his bed, ready to sleep. The ship's engines hummed steadily. Everything was peaceful. Then a minor alarm sounded. Just a small power fluctuation.